เตะแล้วคาด้วยนะครับโชว์โอ้ยฟันศอกแล้วเอาละครับเดินเร็วแล้วครับเดินเร็วแล้วฟันศอกแล้วครับศอกเป็นยัดแล้วแทงเข่าดูครับนี่คือนักมวยที่ใช้ศอกดีที่สุดในโลกคุณบี้บางนี่กวางปือบอกไอ้เดินเลยเดินติดแล้วฮุบโอ้โหดูครับแล้วดูเดี๋ยวดูศอกของแกจะศอกทัดมาลาเอาละครับบวกศอกดูครับชวัดเฉวียนเหลือเกินต้องถอยแล้วครับไกลชีวิตไม่ไหวพายุศอกมาแล้วโอ้โหดูครับแกเดินดุจริงๆครับดูนี่คือนักมวยไทยที่ใช้
So this is part 2 of training with Yodkhunpon, the elbow hunter, and I published our first part of this training session a few months ago. You can look back at that to see what we're doing, but he's basically showing me how to slip out of the clinch. So when someone has already locked you, he's putting his hand underneath the shoulder and stepping out. It's important not to worry too much about your head. Your head will slip out on its own when you step out to the side. So don't try to duck out. Try to like pop them over from the shoulder. You'll see where his hand is on my shoulder and his other hand is on my neck. And he's going to do it with the step out all at once. And see how he steps with his foot so that he has enough space to do that knee. Look at how he does it in shadow. So pretty. He's like, you don't have to shove them. See how he's using his shoulder to push me and stays in one place? He's like, that's ridiculous. Don't do that. Just move out of the way. So I hit his leg on my way out, which I did on purpose. I was trying to trip him a little bit. And he's saying you don't have to do that. Just step out. So I did not bring my left leg. As I'm slipping out, my left leg should be swinging back behind me, and then that's what I knee with.
So you don't even have to mess with the leg. Just move.
So this is when someone locks you, which I lock people. So this is kind of how to defeat Sylvie. But see how he grabs me, and he didn't even pop my arm over all the way. But he got me in a position where he could keep attacking. So even if you don't get all the way out. So there I got out, but I didn't fully have to swing around to do that knee just because I had him in a better position. So he's telling me to grab his neck. So I had grabbed him, and he basically has the outside position, and he uses his free hand to control my arm that's on his neck to swing out. He's going to slow it way down. So he's going to go really slow. Look how pretty. So his left hand is going to control my hand that's on his neck. And then see how he turns his head and steps close to my foot and swings around. He's not using any power to get out. He shows it a few times because I actually don't get it right away. I went backwards. That's not it. So watch his foot. See his right foot next to my foot, and then watch how he turns his body. He doesn't step away from me. He kind of steps behind me. And then he's just barely holding my arm with his other hand to control me. He's not pulling on it or using power or anything like that. So he's saying you were supposed to stand up and pull your head back to help get out, to like slip around their grip. So there, I did the motion right, but I didn't step behind him, so I actually didn't get his arm off of me at all. He does this all by feeling, so while he's trying to slow it down to explain to me the technique, you can see him thinking, because he actually just does this entire move by feeling. Look how powerful that is with no power. But even if you go back and just slow that down, just look at his body positioning all the way through. See how I'm bringing my head up and away? That's how you slip out of their grip from the glove. I moved away from him at the end of it. He's like, stay close and go in.
อย่าดึงอย่าดึง
So I'm pulling him into it, but I need to be stepping behind him a little bit more. And so there he used this other one to slip me over. If someone has their arm really straight as they're holding your neck, that's when you can pop that shoulder over most easily.
เวลาเราจะปลดเหมือนกันเนี่ยปลดก็เหมือนกันเนี่ยปลดสภาพเหมือนกันนี่ครึ่ง
So there he did the same move from a really tight position. So he's not stepping out and like fully extending his body. I didn't quite get that one, but when you're already locked in, when they already have a double clinch on you, you can stay really close and do what he just did and kind of roll them around. But he ends up going back to what he just showed me because I didn't quite understand the short version.
อย่าก้มอย่าเดินในซินดี้อย่าก้มหัวดิ
He's like, you can't stay gum. Gum is like bent over, like with your chin down. He's like, you can't stay in that position. You have to bring your head out.
ก็บอกไม่ได้
See how you have to pull your head up and turn?
อย่าไปก้มบอก
It puts pressure on their shoulder when you put your head back, but it also slips out of their glove.
มือนี้ไม่ต้องใช้แรงเลยแค่ประคองไว้แต่น้ำหนัก
He was saying that I don't need to use so much power. I wasn't using a lot of power, but what he means is you don't need to use any power when you grab that hand. You're just controlling it. You're just guiding it. So when I grab with my right hand to his wrist, it doesn't require any power at all. You're just holding it. So the power is on the one that's on the neck. The hand that's on the neck does all of the work.
เนี่ยเข้าใจพอเข้าใจแล้วมันจะง่าย
This is one of Yodkhunpon's favorite things, is when we just start kind of clinching and kneeing. He comes to life when you do it. It's one of the things that is so amazing about him as a man, is he just has this sheer and absolute joy in playing with Muay Thai still. You'll see it in his smile after I get something on him. Like when my technique works and he feels it, you can see how happy he is.
จำลูกนี้เวลาเขาออกอาวุธนะต้องรอใช้เวลาเขาออกอาวุธอย่างเดียว
So he's saying you don't use that shove as a weapon in itself. You time it with when someone is trying to knee you. Like, don't shove for no reason. Use it like this. So that's his famous step around front elbow.
สนุกเลยอ่ะสนุกไปเลยรอบห้างเดียวเลย
But if you even just watch his body positioning and his feet, how he moves around, he's so relaxed. And you can see how all of his strikes fit into this system.
แต่ถ้าอย่างงานเลย
See how he controls with his right hand on my left hand and then kind of like crawls with the knee because he has control of my head at the same time. He's pulling me into it and pulling himself at the same time.
เข้าใจไหมทำไมว่าเขาไม่มีสิทธิ์ต่อยยังแทงนี่ยังมีสิทธิ์โดนนะโดนหมัดโดนศอกนะถ้าแทงอย่างเงี้ย
So he's talking about knees and why you don't lean back on them is because people can punch you. It seems like you lean back in order to not be punched, but he actually sees it as you being open because you can't guard yourself when you're leaning back. So this is his answer to that, which is you control up top with your arms coming up so that you can grab your opponent's neck and head, which protects your jaw, and then you keep your knees in a pretty much stand-up position. See how balanced I am while holding his head? If I were leaning back, I wouldn't be on balance off of each knee. Look at him do it. He can just do that forever. I tried. He's got this like snake-like, cat-like way of coming in. When I play around with him, I can have like a few seconds of being relaxed and moving really well. And then I end up getting really still and tense, which is what his style creates in me. It's how it works, actually. But anytime he shows me something, he always then puts it into the context of playing with it, so that you can feel it in that context. He's always telling me with elbows that you have to play with them, like when you're shadow boxing and sparring and clinching, you have to keep playing with them until you feel like you're ready to use them. Here he's asking me whether I get low clinched, because he wants to show me how to get out of it, and I was like, not really, because I'm short. And he's like, eventually someone's gonna, so I'm gonna show it to you anyway. So see how he locks right underneath my armpits? You can't lock super low for very long, A, because of the back break, and B, because the ref will come and break it. So people like to lock up higher like this, but it's harder to get out when people lock right underneath your armpits. So he's gonna show me how to do it. I have to go up. He's going to slow it way down. He's really good at showing this. So he brings his hands basically to my sternum. And he's not pushing my belly. He's putting his hands into my belly, but the pressure is on just behind the elbows. See where my arms are going behind his arms? You go right behind the elbows and you pinch your arms together as you're kind of pushing on the stomach, and that's what breaks the lock. See how I'm not pinching my arms in? That's why I can't get out. I'm trying to just push on his belly. Watch him do it in space. This is how you do it. It's like a nutcracker. Pop. He's like, you don't have to use a lot of power. You just want to get the right angle and then just use this sudden crack. Watch him do it. See how he's not like doing a big dramatic motion? You almost can't even see it. I can feel it, I guarantee. There, I got closer to his elbows. You want to be right behind the elbows, and that's what caused the pain.
Up high, up by the chest, you can't get out, but if you go down by the belly.
So the reason you put your hands into the belly is to create the correct angle.
Down by the body?
Not the push.
Joe Hong Tong showed me another way to get out that was kind of similar to that, which is what I was just referencing there. So this is another way. So if someone has you a little bit lower, see how he's gone below my armpits a little bit? I'm trying to peel him off, which he showed me in a previous session, and I can't quite get the angle. So my only move is a monkey climb. So look at his hand positioning. He's southpaw, which is why he's switching my head. He wants to get his right arm.
I thought I was going to make it.
So you put one hand on the back or on the ribs, and the other one is on the back of the head near the neck. And you're going to pull on the neck. You don't have to push so much on the ribs. It's basically just guiding along. But his leg being outside of my leg is what creates the stopping point, so that no matter how hard I'm holding on to him, at some point there's going to be a breaking point. So I end up going in the wrong direction. I'm doing this from a southpaw position, which still works. I'm more comfortable pulling with my left arm. So he's telling me you kind of pinch the arm a little bit at the same time. So see how my hand is on his ribs? I should be pinching his arm with my left arm as well. He's saying you don't have to use very much strength. Look at how gentle. You can see how he's not using strength in his arms at all when he does this. See how he's positioning himself? And look at his legs, how he puts them around mine, and then the positioning of his hands. See how his knee is just outside of my knee, and he just kind of peels me over it? So mess around with both sides and see which one you're more comfortable with. You should be able to do it from both sides, but one side is going to be dominant at first, and figure out the technique there first. So you can see when I shadow it, I'm doing this like super twisty thing. You don't have to do that. Watch his shadow of it when he slows it down.
หมอก็อยู่ฝั่งนี้ถ้าเราบังคับหมอเข้ามาฝั่งนี้
So he's describing how you pull into your shoulder first and pin with your arm. So it's basically feeling the body position.
จับหัวไว้แล้วก็ขา
So the hand that's behind the neck is the same side that you put that knee behind their knee.
แล้วก็แค่ดึงแค่นี้
And he's like, you don't pull around like this. See how he's twisting his body? He's like, you don't have to do that. You just pull straight back.
แค่นี้ตัวเราไม่ต้องไปด้วยเอวไม่ต้องไปอะไรไม่ต้องไป
He's like, quit twisting your body, Sylvie. Just pull straight back. I can't figure it out. He's like, look. So watch his waist. He doesn't twist so much. See how he's just pulling my head straight back and my whole body just peels around? So you actually want to keep them really close to your body. Sanctia Noi does the same thing. He pulls you into his armpit, and by going straight back, your whole body twists instead of his.
ใช้ขาเยอะ
ค่ะ
So I got my knee to the outside, and then I just pull straight back and see how he goes.
เอาใช้เลยนะ
I don't have to use
You
as
have
much
to- you have to
power.
Pinch his arm with that side, but this one you're just pulling straight back into your leg. I was like rotating,
Yeah.
but you just pull it.
I think this is
Straight
one
back.
of Loma's throws.
Is it?
I think so.
So you're kind of just tripping someone even though they're going to end up twisting. You don't twist them. They kind of twist just from the torque of you pulling back. When you get the right angle behind the elbows there, it hurts.
โอเคแล้วเวลาเขาเตะล็อกขาจับแก้ไขได้ไหมทำเป็นไหม
So this is when you catch a kick, and he's asking me how I get out.
โอ้โห
ทำไงแต่ทำไงแก้ไขไหม ตาย
He's
เลยนะ
he's caught me up by my knee, so I actually can't get out at all. My only option is to go closer to him, which is so scary that I can't do it. He's just playing with me, but you see how he doesn't let go?
ตายสองครั้งแล้ว
I'm telling him I died 3 times already in that exchange. It was not an exchange.
จับนี่เนาะ
ยังพยายามเอาที่ที่จับผมนะ
So I'm gonna catch him now.
ผมต้องรีบปลด
Look at how straight he keeps his leg to give himself options. And see, now he's pulling me into him.
Closer to the knee, maybe.
And see how he just turns his knee down?
หักออกมาแทงไปอ่า
So I'm technically doing what he's doing, but not.
ไม่ต้องเตะเนาะ
ไม่ต้องไปเตะ
He's saying you don't have to turn your hip so much, you only turn your knee,
ไม่ต้องตั้งใจว่าจะ
which
วิกฤต
is complicated.
เวลา
I overturn on that kick anyway, so my hip is already turned. But he's trying to explain to me that you don't have to turn your whole body, you just have to basically angle your knee down and slip it out.
ค่ะ
ล็อกแน่นแน่นขนาดไหนก็ไม่อยู่
ใช่ มีวัสลีนน้ำมัน
ไม่เกี่ยวเลยไอ้นี่เหมือนกันเนี่ยไอ้นี่ยิ่งล็อกแน่น
He's saying that because he's wearing shin guards, it's really easy to grab his leg. But
เดี๋ยวเตะได้
in a fight, you don't wear those, and people are all Vaselined and oiled up, so you can actually slip out fairly easily, even if they're holding it really tight. But see how I'm holding tight and he's still controlling me? The turning of his knee ends up whipping me around, because he has balance and control.
ไอ้นี่มันติดนี่เฉยแล้วมันติดมันออกไปตั้งนานแล้วปั๊บเออนี่แหละ
And he's saying that it hurts his bicep as the tighter he holds it, the more it's going to hurt him as I come out.
ปั๊บโอ้โห
It's so cool how he thinks, like, as he's training people. He pieces it together as he goes. So he taught me this before, and I'm way overturning on that head kick. But I'm excited because I got really into this when he showed me before. And here he's breaking down just in shadow how to catch it. So you block with your right arm, and then my left arm is just creating a little latch over his shin, basically. And when you catch the kick, you want to crouch down so that when it's caught, you just stand up and it throws him backwards.
ไม่ต้องกลัวเลยแรงยิ่งแรงยิ่งดี
He's like, you don't have to have any fear, even if I kick hard.
แต่แค่นี้ที่ล็อกปั๊บปั๊บ
Look at how tight he is when he does that block. His shoulder is in front of his jaw, and then his forearm is protecting the front. Because he's kicking a little bit hard, I got a little bit amped up. Like, I got excited.
Feel like aggressive.
Got a little riled.
ยกนิดเดียว
So he's saying that when you're throwing them over, it's not this big dramatic move. You're actually just kind of standing up. So look how gentle he did it.
กล้าหนีได้ไหม
I'm not bending down enough. Like, I'm not bending my knees to catch it low. Watch how low he goes. His knee is almost on the ground. And I'm shorter than he is, but you can still go that low in order to have more leverage.
นั่นแหละแค่นั้นแหละ
I don't count.
So I was asking, do I not need to step? And he's like, stepping is fine.
ไปอย่าให้มันหลุดดิ
The point is to create leverage with the stand-up. So by me not bending down enough, I'm not creating enough leverage in the part where I come up.
ไปไม่ได้หรอกแล้วไปเล็กเล็กนะเนี่ยมันจะอยู่ท่านี้ไหม
Look how low.
แค่เนี้ย
And then he barely has to move to just knock me over. So there, when I catch his arm, my elbow is up too high, so I don't have as much leverage because I don't have anywhere to move to.
แค่นี้พอเพราะว่าเวลาบล็อกอยู่
So if I keep my elbow lower, like that, and just protect with my shoulder,
แล้วเวลา
then I have more room to throw him off.
เอายกขึ้นมามันไม่ไปไง
Ah,
เข้าใจป่ะ
ha.
ปั๊บปั๊บนั่น
So my elbow is too high, so I have nowhere to go. So you have to block here. So you have somewhere to move.
อุ้ย
Ooh.
แกมันต้องอย่างนี้
Hey, hey.
Okay, I think I surprised him with that one.
ดีคุณมากดี
He gauges everything based on feeling, so he can feel whether I'm getting something right or not based on the impact on him, which is really cool how he understands the technique based on how it feels. So now we're moving back into clinch, and he's trying to show me kind of how to grab with the arms and when you're swimming in and how you're kneeing and kind of how this all works together rather than just being in stagnant positions.
ตั้งคิดไว้ในใจเดี๋ยวจะรอต่อยี่สักหน่อยคิดไว้ในใจปล่อยให้เขาเลย
Look at his body positioning, how he tucks his head in.
ไม่ได้
I know.
แล้วระยะไปคิ
He
ด
said that elbow doesn't work because it was too short. He was blocking with his own arm, so you have to choose the right moment
สอบเดียวนะเนี่ย
and which side you're going to do based on those angles.
เลย
So see how he's got his hand on my bicep on my right arm? That's why I don't throw that one. But his hand is behind my head on my left arm, so I can slip over his elbow and nail him on that side.
ข้อมือเกิด
Now he's going to correct my hand.
ถ้า
Look at the angle of his hand. If you put it inside like this, you're going to be too short. So he points his fingers towards my shoulder,
เพราะว่ามัน
and there he's just feeling where the right spot is. And then he just comes over it. It's so pretty and smooth.
ที่นี่เนาะ
ใช่
My hand is not right. It needs to come over right on top of his bicep.
ถนัดไหมล่ะฟันถนัดไหมล่ะเอาที่ตัวเองถนัดดิเนี่ย
So the corrections he's making on my hand dictate the trajectory of my
ระ
elbow.
ยะนี้มันต้องระยะประชิดสินพี่ต้องแต่งให้ได้ถ้าพูดภาษาจีนว่าอะไรวะคอนโทรลให้เราต้องรอ respect
So he's trying to think of what he's trying to say in English, and he chooses the word respect, but what he means is expect.
ตีไป
He means anticipate where they're going to be or what they're doing. So if I'm kneeing,
ได้
I know he's going to knee me back, and then he wants me to elbow on that knee. So basically anticipate your opponent's movements, and then you know when your elbow can go.
ให้เขาทำบางสิ่งบางอย่างเพื่อเราเพื่อรอ
เข้าฟังแต่
อ่า
He can do it from anywhere.
She want to do too, I know.
Look at the excitement in his face when he's saying this. He said he knew that I was going to elbow, that I wanted to elbow, so he just got me first. That's what he's talking about expect.
รู้จักแต่ง
He knew I was waiting for it, so he just went first. You can see the difference in relaxation in his shoulders and tension in mine, which is why I can't quite reach him and he covers so much distance on everything, is because of his relaxation.
เวลาเขาทีมมาทำไมรู้ไหม
He turns his foot a little bit on the teep. It's not a sideways teep, but he angles his heel out a little bit. And you can see in the way he plays, there's no power in anything, but he has the same speed and kind of fight intensity. It's the perfect way to play with people. It's from so many years of experience.
แล้วรอไว้เลยแตนบายไว้จะต่อยหรือจะอะไร
He also uses this term stand by, which basically means be ready for the next thing. So like your elbow is on standby while you're kneeing. Or when you move someone's teep out of the way, your next attack is on standby.
แต่ฟันต่อฟันไม่ได้
He's showing me how, because he's holding my foot with his right arm, he can't use that arm for the attack because it's way too far. So the left side of his body is what's going to be the attack on that side.
อย่าเปลี่ยนที่สิที่
I overturned on my leg kick. He's going to make fun of me for it.
เตะง่ายเตะง่ายเตะง่ายเตะง่ายเตะง่ายเตะง่าย
I overturned on that kick. And the point is that when you overturn, you can't do something off of it. That's what he means by standby. So your strikes always need to be on balance and in the right angle for you to have something next, not single strikes. I leaned back on that one, so I actually wasn't ready to throw anything off of it. So he only wants me to kick, and he's going to use repetition as the way to correct that technique. So if I'm overturning and therefore not ready to do the next kick, throw 10 kicks, because that will correct how you kick in order to be able to throw another one. And he's trying to explain to me you don't have to turn your hips so much in order to get the kick off, so quit doing it. So those are decent kicks, yeah? There's enough power in them, and I can keep throwing them. So he's like, do that other lame one that I hate. And now I can't do anything. He's like, one time and finish. So I'm like, it's the same as if you hook and like way overturn, you basically turn your back on someone. He's like, now do the lame one.
แล้วทำได้อีกไหม
ใช่
หมดเลยใช่ไหมเหมือนกับเวลาเตะเขาหน้า
It's your shoulders. You turn your shoulders sideways.
That is
His
also
face
my
when he
foot.
makes fun of me is
If you keep your shoulder
my favorite.
pushed, your foot can't go all the way.
So I can actually keep from overturning by focusing on my shoulder on the same side as the kick. It's my trick for correcting that. So I'm trying to explain to him here that I don't have nice footwork when I'm following people around, like chasing people to cut off the ring. I'm saying a lot of the girls I fight try to do this Muay Thai thing where they're just going to stay away from me the whole time. But watch his footwork as he's cutting off the ring and tracking me around. He switches stance a little bit, but his feet stay so even all the time, and he's so light. So by staying so light and kind of keeping his balance between the 2 feet, he's ready to move in any direction, and he's ready to throw anything off of it. He's showing how if you just gallop forward like this, you're actually not ready to throw anything. Like, you have to follow, stop, and then strike. So you take these wide steps, but measured. See how I wasn't ready to throw the kick and I didn't have good distance? You figure this out by just messing around with your footwork for hours and hours and hours. So every day, 10-15 minutes, just move around with your footwork to feel it. It's something that Chai Sasakun talks about a lot, is just learning to feel things through shadow. He's like, every day, you just shadow around, just work on your footwork. So the first time we worked together, I stayed too far away from him on those elbows. But now I'm trying to take that last little centimeter that is what feels different between his and mine. And he's feeling the difference in those. So he likes that he can't anticipate those. They're coming out of just one movement. And here I'm trying to correct the lean back on my kicks. So you can see I move around with him really loose for a good 40 seconds. And then I get the I'm sparring with a champion thing. And I kind of get stiff. I get really still. And that's when it kind of falls apart. So that's him thinking, because I caught his kick and did that little pull, and he felt it, and he's like, no. So now he's going to think about it. And this is what he likes better. It's horrifying. Oh God, you guys, it hurts so much. So I had a really hard time figuring this out, but what's good about that is that he has to break it down for a while because I didn't quite get it. So I've been taught that when you catch the kick, you immediately raise it up, and he's saying you don't have to do that so much with this. But look at his hip and shoulder in the way that he turns. He's not super turning his body. He's pinching with his arm and then pushing his shoulder forward. See how I'm trying to turn my entire body and it's not working? See how he just rolls his shoulder? He's like, it's not about your waist. And I'm still trying to pull up because he hasn't told me yet that you don't have to do that. So look at where he's catching my shin and my calf, and then he felt with his other hand behind him to see whether or not my foot was hooked on his back, and he wants that. He wanted to feel where my foot was. See how his foot is so far behind my back? I want to get the angle so that the top of his foot is on my back. He's like, you don't have to pull up. So see how I'm kind of like twisting my body and trying to like rotate down? You don't have to do any of that.
You have to get the like, because when you feel it, it's like you're fine, and then you're just gone. So you just have to do like a little.
So that's kind of similar to when you're breaking someone's body lock on you, how you want to do like a little twitch to break it. Doing it fast rather than muscling it absolutely works better, but the angle has to be right, or even if you do it fast, they're not going to go anywhere. So there I stepped towards him, which kind of knocked him off balance, and I got a little bit better leverage because when I stepped forward, his foot touched my back. I'm still trying to use too much of my body. So he's like, you lock and then you just twist your shoulder. See how I'm bending at the waist? You don't do that. See how he's putting his weight on his right leg and his right hip is kind of cocked in a little bit and then his left foot is pointing out? Look at his whole body position. And then he's just using his forearm and his shoulder to create the tension points on my leg. So what I figured out there is that you need to stand up, because that forces me to use my shoulder more. I was kind of hunching and trying to like turn down, which was messing up the angle. For me, standing up straight allows me to engage my shoulder the way he wants me to. But he's saying you only have to do a little bit, like you shouldn't be doing huge motions or using a lot of power or anything like that.
Makes you not want to kick on the left side.
But you need to get a partner and practice it a million times, and they'll tell you, yeah, that tension's good, or that's not good, or whatever. Or they'll fall down like that and you'll know it's working.
Hey, tell them about overturning.
So I have this problem with overturning in the clinch, so I'm trying to ask him about it. And every person I ask about this, they're like, if you know what you're doing, just stop doing it. It's like when I drop my hand, someone punches me in the face. Like, stop dropping your hand. But I'm trying to get him to show me how to grab in such a way that I don't, like, I'm grabbing in a way that's causing me to overturn. So I guess I'm kind of asking for a different way to enter. So he's saying if you bend your knees and become more squared up and keep your knees kind of at the same angle of their knees. He's like, if you put your foot in and overturn, you can't even knee. So the way his feet are, you just want to square up more. So basically he's telling me, stop getting in that angle and square up when you clinch. So there, as I got into the clinch, I was more squared up. And he wants me to get my left leg outside of his stance. And for the most part, he stays with his feet really even in the clinch. Because anything he's trying to do with turns or off balancing, he's doing it on someone else's knees. So he can stay really squared up because he's not using a lot of trips. He's using timing. And so again, you just kind of play around, and he waits to feel where there's a weakness that he can correct. And here it's my trying to off balance him. So he's like, when I knee, pull on me in order to off balance. That's his timing. But it's the same as the peel off. You want to pull straight back. So he's saying that if you step back and pull, you're kind of negating what you were just doing. There is a way to do a turn where you're super bringing your leg back in order to then knee off of that. That's its own thing. What he's trying to show me here is how to do this pull without doing one of those turns. So basically you wait for him to be on one leg, and then you just jerk straight back on his neck without having to do any of those steps. He's like, don't be afraid of my knee, go ahead and take it in order to get the rhythm. He's saying do the pull in the rhythm of the knee. So I wait for that knee to come up, and then I pull. There I put my hip back, and so I'm not getting any leverage. Like, I'm using pulling my butt back to take away all of my power. But really my left arm, it's like opening a fridge. My left arm should just be coming straight back, like cranking a lever or something. So there, see how he barely moved? His body didn't move at all. And he just used timing and not strength to pull my head straight, and I went lurching forward. There I used my back instead of just pulling with my arm.
You don't have to mess with your feet. Like I'm doing these big sweeping things. Just like on that.
So here he's showing how to control from the arm. So he just did this small pull from the back of my neck. And see how he doesn't even have a lot of control of my arm? He's just feeling where he has angles and he can push or pull. So there, I finally used just my arm with the right moment. It's just a little jerk rather than this big muscle pull. So he's saying that when you do the timing right on that knee, even if he lands it in my belly, there's no power because he's off balance. See how straight that is? Just straight back. He's like, if you angle your elbow out and pull to the side, there's no power. You just come straight back.
Straight.
He pulls to his armpit.
Yeah, but it's like if you're trying to shoot a gun, you don't shoot it like that.
Not like that. So this is just feeling out timing on those knees for when to do those off balancing or when to throw an elbow. He's so awesome. His nickname is the elbow hunter of 100 stitches, and I just made a joke that I already had 100 stitches. See how loose? And then he just explodes into his kick. And then he made fun of me by overturning. So here he's showing how you use your guard and the length of your arms to protect yourself and grab. I have a really hard time grabbing the back of my trainers' heads. see how he just rests his on top of mine, but he has enough tension or pressure or whatever on his hand that he keeps control even though he's not using a lot of power. And here he wants my knees to come from an angle. The way you get that is from bringing your heel up to your hip. Like your heel comes to the outside of your butt, and that creates the angle he wants on the knees. Instead of the rocking chair one.
รู้ยังอะไรไม่รู้ยังเพราะว่าไม่ได้แทงแต่ละครั้งเนี่ยมันไม่ดีมันจึ๊กจึ๊กจึ๊ก
นี่ลงนี่
เข้าใจแล้วนะแทงไหนดิมือขวาด้วย
So I realized way after making this video that the way he grabs the back of the head is kind of like if you had a buoy or a balloon in water and you put your hand on top of it and you just kind of, it's going to try to pop out from different angles and you just keep enough pressure and control on it to keep it somewhat submerged. That's the way you hold the back of someone's head. It's not shoving it down, it's not super tense, it's just controlling its movement. See how his hand is on the back of my head? And if I try to get out, he just follows it. And if you reach across, you're protecting your own jaw from strikes on that side. And see how I come off of those knees with balance? That's what he's looking for. Because then you can throw the next one.
ทำอะไรไม่ได้หรอก
He's saying he can't punch me while I'm doing that.
ไม่ได้สองไม่ได้
He can't elbow.
มันจะเจ็บกว่าเยอะเนี่ยมันนี่
Oh, when your trainers make fun of you.
ข้างหน่อยออกข้างหน่อยอย่าเดินตรง
So tongue is a kind of knee. It comes at this angle and it comes to the middle of the belly. That's what he's asking for. He feels it coming through the belly pad and that's how he knows whether I'm doing it right.
เวลาจับไปตีมันก็มี
And here he's showing how to do it in a clinch position. Guys, this sucks. Like, see how his head is tucked in? So he's protected and he has such a good lock on me. And from this position, with the space between our bodies, he can just throw whatever he wants.
แล้วจะถูกปอกเขา
So the way he puts his head in protects him from elbows, but he keeps his body back so he can keep kneeing.
แล้วพี่
โอเค
He packs a lot in, man.